Okay, so we're live now. Welcome everyone to Scale's first webinar that's going to discuss experience. Why is it important for content creation, especially in the age of AI? My name is Emma, and I'm a marketing lead here at Scale. Maybe some of you don't know, Scale is an SEO, SaaS SEO agency. We create efficient, scalable SEO revenue engines for clients. Our main goal is to drive revenue and to make your SEO, your organic channel, your first and best performing channel. Today with me, I have a lot of interesting guests, 4 of them, as you can see. They all come from different sort of companies. So let's start with Leah. I'm going to introduce her. She's Leah. She is SEO content lead at Scale. Leah, you can present yourself to the audience. Tell something more about yourself.
Hi guys, thanks Emma. I'm SEO content lead at Scale, as Emma mentioned. Yeah, I work with a really awesome content team on a range of interesting SaaS clients, on content deliverables, and just a focus on creating holistic SEO strategies and great content, which is something you'll hear me say a lot over the next hour, I'm sure.
Okay, so we have also Caitlin. She's a senior editorial lead here at Scale. Please introduce yourself so people can know more about you.
Thanks, Emma. Caitlin, as you said, I'm a Scale newbie. I've just joined to lead the editorial department and forward our Scribe department. Our Scribe offering, I should say. So that's really expert-led articles, storied. So you'll hear me talking about that a lot in this session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have Kirsty. She's a director of product and content marketing at Chameleon. Kirsty, can you tell a few words about yourself and to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me. I'm Kirsty. I've been working in content for about 7, 8 years now. So definitely value experience, expert-driven content. So I'm very excited to share that with you all today. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to have you. And finally, last but not least, we have Paul. He's the head of marketing at Rep AI. Paul, feel free to introduce yourself as well.
Yes, sure. I came out of social work and funnily found myself in a tech company, at least in the interview process with Typeform, and they hired me for whatever reason. And I was their first marketing hire, or second marketing hire, I forget. And led content there, led copy, and then eventually became director of brand. And now I'm the head of marketing at Rep AI, AI company that basically is a shopping assistant for e-commerce sites on Shopify.
Nice. Thank you for introduction, and I'm really glad to have you all here. I'm really excited as we are going to hear some really valuable insights, I'm sure. So just a small intro for the audience. We're going to have a panel discussion now where you're going to answer some of the most intriguing and interesting questions. And later we are going to have a Q&A session. So feel free to ask your questions in the live chat on the side. So we can start with the questions now. Panel discussion time. As you might know, EEAT framework is a hot topic in the SEO world, especially. It's not a direct ranking factor, but the question here we have, it's what exactly does the EEAT framework stand for? And how does exactly this new E fit into it? Who's going to be the volunteer first?
I'll take it away. I'll start us off. I think most people are quite familiar with EAT already. Quick overview, or now EEAT. It's quite a mouthful. Experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. This is like part of Google's search quality rater guidelines. So as you mentioned, not a direct ranking factor, but it's what the manual evaluators use to sort of evaluate whether content is high quality and valuable for the user. And it's based on a couple of signals. So experience looks at whether the creator, so the author, has firsthand experience in the topic they're talking about. Expertise is whether the author is an expert in the niche. Authority is less page by page and more kind of an overview of your entire site. And trustworthiness is actually where it's all at. You can think of it as the foundation that the EEA sit on. Trustworthiness takes into consideration the content creator, the actual content, and then your site as a whole. There are also trust signals, such as, factual accuracy on a page, correct grammar and spelling, etc. But it encompasses everything else. And Google basically introduced EAT in 2014, and Experience came along in December last year. After we'd already seen a big focus on experience in the product review update, Google made it official. And I don't think it's a coincidence that it kind of entered the chat the same time that AI and ChatGPT did. So I think it's relatively important.
Yeah. Okay. So
can I chime in real quick? Yeah,
of course.
I think that it's funny they call it EAT because it's all about consuming content in the end, right? And the reason why we consume content is because I think this framework, whether they acknowledged it or not, already existed in people's minds, right? Like people automatically gravitate to experts. They gravitate to people who have a particular experience with something, like say a product or traveling somewhere or whatever the case. They gravitate to authority. And to me, I see authority as this person has cred and everyone knows this person has cred and this is the go-to source and this is where everybody goes, or the site or whatever the case. So I just think that this kind of already existed and it's just being acknowledged. And just wanted to put that in there.
Do you want to share your document?
Yeah. So I put this together because the emphasis on experience and coming from the E is super important right now. And so I created this cred framework. So it's like how your credibility, and really not everyone's going to be an expert when they first start out. So you might start off as the curator. You're curating, your audience, and you're curating content specifically for them, tailor-made for them. The reporter is a place I like to play. You're gathering information, you're putting things together, you're doing a lot of research, you're talking to people, and you put all that together and you put a piece out, and it's backed by other people's experiences or you talking to other types of authority. And then documentarian is like super experiential. This is the person that says, hey, I'm going to lose 50 pounds in 30 days. And then they go out and do it. And I call it like reality blogging. But I think it's useful to start when you start thinking about my experience and my direct experience and how it impacts the quality of content, that you're actually coming from one of these four places.
Yeah, this is really interesting framework. Thanks for sharing. So you said that you are the reporter, but for example, can we say that the experts are the ones that have like the most experience here? Can we say they are the ones that are creating something that's really trustworthy in the end? And
well, I think they're all trustworthy because the documentarian is actually directly experiencing it and sharing their narrative, right? And then there's there's a combination of the reporter expert, right? You could be a reporter, but in a very niche topic, and you only report on that, right? So it's like someone covering, I don't know, tech or software, and this is their expertise. But they're also just reporting, right? They don't use all the software. Maybe they're not experiencing the software directly, but they're reporting on what's coming out, and that type of thing. And then the curator is someone who should really know your audience, right? And they're curating a certain number of pieces for them. Think about newsletters. It's really popular there.
Well, yes, sorry, Emma, I was going to say that there's a kind of a time and a place, or rather content and a place for each of these. So where experts is, more trustworthy. And then when the documentarian is more valuable, I think we see it with travel guides, for example. I was recently on holiday and I just did not Google one thing. I was in Reddit, or I was in booking.com reviews, or I was like always sorting from lowest to highest. I want to see like what people are actually going through. And I think it just depends on the content you're creating.
And specifically the E means that person's experience, doesn't mean they're expert, right?
Exactly.
Yes, I think that documentarian here is something that Google is aiming for, to be honest, because they really appreciate when someone's content implements someone's personal, real experience. I don't know if I guess you probably agree with it, but when you see that someone has used, I don't know, a video of using certain product, or some photo or some tutorial, then it gives more credibility to the content.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you for your answers. Let's continue with another question. So how has exactly the introduction of experience as the new E in this framework changed the SEO landscape? What do you think?
I think it just places more emphasis on you sharing based on real life experience. Like I said, these things existed before, and I think people gravitated to people who did this before. So as far as how it's going to shape rankings, if Google is saying, hey, this criteria is important, then I imagine there will be a bump, but people are already gravitating to certain people who are just great at sharing their experiences. So
yes, I agree, definitely.
Yeah. I was just say, let me know if y'all can hear me. Internet bugged out the moment we went live, so apologize if I don't catch everything you're saying. Maybe just to build on what Paul said in this question and the previous question, this kind of is, as he said, a reflection of what we and it's something that is happening outside of SEO as well. So my background is in journalism, and I can tell you there are days when 15 or more people. So we're always trying to ground things in experience and expertise. And yeah, I think if we're thinking about it in terms of what is the content, like what is the utility of a piece of content that we're trying to create, then we can think about where we're using these appropriately. So kind of like Leah said there are some kinds of, instances where we're going to be looking for information from fellow users. In the SaaS space, when we're vetting tools, that's probably one of them. I want an informed opinion, someone who's done it. Maybe I want them to have a little bit of expertise, but I do want them to have experienced the tool. So I'm getting an informed perspective on that. So yeah, I think it's solidifying things we know are effective. It's things that we know people want. And that, of course, really is the root of good SEO content. If they're not reading it, then it's not going to do well. It's cyclical in that way. So yeah, I think this is one of the tools that essentially now we have in our arsenal, one of many. We know this works, and we've determined that this is something people are interested in. This is one of the ways they vet information. And so it is relevant for us to be thinking about when we come into content strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Caitlin's really hit the nail on the head there, because one thing I wanted to mention is experience is just one part of a million signals as SEOs that we've been getting from Google and from users that content is becoming just more human-centered. So this is just one small part of that. So how that's changing the SEO landscape for me is, okay, black hat SEO tactics have been out the window for a long time, but it's becoming less and less about ticking boxes in terms of, you know, how can we win against this algorithm, and more about creating just really valuable content that provides users with information gain and a transformational experience, as Paul knows.
Hopefully.
And loves.
That's a high bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I build upon
Yeah.
that and say it's really exciting if you're doing good marketing that's informed. Like, this gives you such a great advantage. You're gonna have so much more potential rather than the person who's like bashing out keyword optimized content, like keyword after keyword. Like, you're gonna be the brand that's trusted. People enjoy reading your stuff, which is just gonna be like cyclical over time. So I think we should be happy about it.
Yeah, I think that people recognize when some content is really human generated, human written, and they do realize and recognize that experience. So I guess that experience has changed the SEO landscape, and I think that is going to continue changing it in the future. Okay, so we can go to the next question if you agree. This is more SaaS questions. So what strategies can SaaS companies really adopt to ensure that their product-related content reflects genuine user experiences and insights? What do you think?
You use your own product. Number one, use your own product. I mean, you got to have some type of idea or experience there in order to effectively market it. And I think the most obvious one is talk to customers. I think this is still underrated and not done well enough, or not done enough in general. For example, I talked to a customer the other day, and I was just trying to get his case study. I was asking him a couple questions, you know, and Rep is an AI-powered chatbot, and, you know, he's the director of customer success, and he tells me he's trying to reduce NDCs, and I'm like, what's an NDC? And he said it's a non-decision contact. Basically, there's a lot of customers who ask for support, but it doesn't require a decision. They just need information, and they were just trying to reduce that. And the thing that stuck out to me also is when they're evaluating the tool, they thought it was just to answer, you know, customer support questions, but he told me that, oh, this thing can actually sell. It can actually recommend products. It can actually do all these things. And he said after that, he went to his executive team, asked to use it, and they said, yeah, give it a shot. If it's going to sell, let's see what it does. And after playing with it, tweaking it, and getting it to a place where they felt comfortable with it, they launched it. And then one of the flows, he told me, got him a 33% conversion rate, which translated to over $200,000 in revenue. I would have never known that if I didn't talk to this guy, right? And so I think it's important to grab those experiences directly from the users themselves. And I think we should be doing more of that. So
talk to your customers and revenue will just keep coming, basically.
Yeah, that's where the best insights are, right?
Yeah.
It's a simple quote unquote strategy that anyone can do, right? And just reach out to somebody, have a conversation. Hey, how is this like really impacting your business?
But as you said, like, people don't do that much often. So I guess there is always room for improvement to understand your customers better.
Yeah.
I think maybe on top of that, like, of course, like any opportunity you can get to talk to your customers, like, go for it. But there's a lot of other like recording softwares out there which will summarize, like give you highlights about what people are talking about, that you can be like, oh, actually quite a lot of people are talking about this part of the product and this is the way that they talk about it, which then you can feed back into your content strategy. Like at Chameleon, for example, we do product tours, tooltips, micro surveys, but a key part of them actually working is the integrations that go with it. So we can actually like zoom in on who's talking about the integrations, how much they're being talked about, like how often they come up in a deal, and be like, okay, can we put together like a little playbook on how to use that recipe? Or can it be like do this with that? Like that's something that's worked really well for us as well. But yes, talk to your customers.
Yeah, I think that's like the most important thing, because if you talk with them, you're always going to improve. But if you don't have a connection with them, you will never know what's wrong with your product and how you can improve.
What listening tools do you use, Kirsty?
We're using Fathom, which is good. It's got a good AI feature on it too, where you can just get a summary at the end.
We're using Fathom too, so it's a powerful tool, really.
Okay, cool.
Good tool swap.
Leah, are you saying something? Because we can hear you. You're muted, maybe. Can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Maybe you can try to. Okay, something definitely is not.
Shall I
it's
jump
not
in
right
while
to
we
hear.
get that sorted?
Yeah, you can, because something is wrong with her microphone. I guess some technical issues.
Cool. I thought maybe I could pick up on the other aspect of this question. So I think we've spoken pretty well covered user experiences, things like outreach surveys, user-generated content, of course, and then maybe looking into stats from the tool, you know, your own tool, how people actually using it, maybe where they need some information. But the second part about insights, you know, how can we be ensuring that we got really good, insightful content? I think part of that is pairing the right people together. So often your super technical product person or whatever expert is that you have is got a lot of good information to share, but they might not necessarily have other necessary tools to do that in a way that's going to make for really compelling reading material. So, you know, my recommendation there would be to be pairing them up with strong editorial teams that know how to collaborate well with experts, with, you know, highly skilled technical people. And, you know, then we'll make sure, you know, in the end, hopefully have content that is good, presented in a way that people really want to be reading it, because we have two very distinct skill sets there, and they can work very beautifully together. And then following that, making sure that we have internal mechanisms, like within our content team, to be connecting with experts. So if we don't have that expertise in-house, that's something that we can be doing outreach for, to seek out those insights and hopefully incorporate them into our material in a way that's going to add something new and interesting for the reader. So I mentioned at the beginning, a focus on being expert-led. So that's really what we're talking about. And then I think last but not least,
we lost you.
Systems for sourcing
Okay.
really good research. Oh, you lost me? Where did you lose me?
Now we can hear you.
Am I back?
Yeah.
I don't know where you lost me, but the last point I was just going to make was setting up systems to support solid research, you know, vetting of research that to really ground everything that you're saying in your content, so that it is really robust. So that's something that we've done in our content workflow, in our content production. We have a content researcher who also does expert outreach. So really just trying to make sure that we are pairing the right people together to make good content.
Yes, and I guess editorial role is really crucial there.
When you say research and robust and, trying to do that well, is besides talking to experts, what else do you do?
I bugged out there, so I don't know if someone asked me a question.
I'm asking you, Caitlin.
Paul, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm not sure if Caitlin heard your question.
Yeah, I don't think she heard.
I didn't hear Paul's question. Sorry, Paul. What did you ask?
I was asking, besides talking to experts, how do you create or get robust research, well-rounded, done very well? What other tactics? Did we lose her again? She's frozen.
We lost both of them. Leah is talking, but you're not back. Maybe you can try to leave the studio and then come back. So we're going to continue definitely because Caitlin also freezed. Maybe she can answer this question later on.
Okay, no problem.
Emma, am I back now? Is it my headphones?
You're back.
You're back.
I should have stuck with my old school like wire headphones that are like all torn up. But anyways, that's you live and you learn. I can't really talk from the editorial side, but when you're talking about or when you ask about robust content, I think what's really important for me, at least, is this idea of information gain. Is how do we create content that is not just a summary of what's in the search results? And again, this feeds into like experience, right? People, users, myself included, are so sick of being just bombarded with super generic content. It's really frustrating. Now, it's a little bit easier said than done, right? When my team and I speak about it, we're like, how do we figure out what people need to know? When you're creating content, you're thinking to yourself, what do our users want to know? That's why we're creating the content. What do they already know, which we can leave out? And then what do they need to know? And I think this feeds into, Paul, your idea of like transformation, right? It's like, how do we kind of guide them through this entire transformation, which is part of helping them understand like questions that they didn't even know they had. So I like to jump into Reddit, and I've actually been trying out this new tool called Perplexity AI, which you can scrape Reddit for, which is really cool. And it's actually real time. It's not ChatGPT stuck in 2021, to try and figure out, like to try and do some community research and figure out like, what are people talking about around this topic that, is not in the search results? How can we answer their questions? How can we cover this? And that I think is part of like, again, creating really good content that actually stands out. I'm not sure if that answers the question, Paul.
I'm not sure if we have Caitlin back, but we can maybe proceed to our next question until her tech problems improve. So this is a question for all of you. Can you share some successful strategies, campaigns where this incorporation of the new E played a crucial role in driving revenue?
So, yeah, this is kind of meta, but when I was working at Typeform, the CEO came to our team and basically said, "Hey, I want to do something around conversational interfaces," because that was Typeform's like value proposition. And I'm like, I know about conversational interfaces. We use them all the time, SMS, WhatsApp, whatever. And so I got into the piece, you know, discovered all the other types of conversational interfaces like voice, and, you know, even played with Amazon Alexa just to get, you know, just to get in there and feel things out. I would eventually buy one sitting right there. It's so old anyway. And so we've all had this experience, right? And so to me, it was like, it was easy to just kind of get in there and just kind of start from my experience. And then, you know, then you got to figure out the angle and all that. We published a piece, you know, produced a short video for the article, then launched it. And then the video got 1.1 million views for whatever reason. It's like a silly video. Doesn't even make sense.
Wow,
The article,
that's impressive.
the article was awesome. I think got 18,000 uniques, and a lot of people talking about it, which is, you know, super important. We're trying to drive word of mouth all the time with our content. But the key thing is not tying it directly to revenue, because, you know, I think attribution is kind of a mirage when it comes to content anyway. But I would say 18,000 people, unique people coming and checking it out. And then we had a whole influx of people saying, well, how do you do we did a chatbot within the article. We actually developed it and put it in. This is like 2016, 2017. So it was like so cool. It's not as cool now. But we had a whole bunch of people saying, hey, can I have that? And then we had enough people, and it kind of tipped the scales. And then we ended up developing that as a feature of the product. So I'm not sure how it ties in directly to revenue, but I would say it enhanced, or
It
helped.
somehow ties. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Other speakers, do you have also some successful strategies, campaigns to share when it comes to implementing this new E?
I have one I can share. So I've talked about looking at the data that we have. That can be a unique way of having this expert view. At Chameleon, we do something called the benchmark report. We do it every year. I think we've done 4 editions. I'd even be coming up to the 5th one this year. Wow. So for the benchmark report, what we do is we take a big zoom out at all of our user data in Mixpanel, and we start to find out like what percentage of people are completing a product tour, how many people are going to respond to an in-app micro survey. And then we go a little bit deeper again, and we're like, okay, what if that product tour was 2 steps and we compare it to a 5-step tour? Like, what happens? And it's actually really fun to dig into, because you're just like, I write a set of questions like, is a short tour better than a long tour? And it's like, prove yourself right or prove yourself wrong. Either way, you've got some data that you can share, which is pretty cool. So with all this data, we end up writing up this big report. We initially started gated back in the day. Now it's actually like open for anyone to see. It's chameleon.io/benchmark-report. And that's live on the site. What we saw, like, of course, the immediate impact is someone just like reading the content and being like, oh my God, I wanted to pay for your product right now. That's quite a leap to take. But when we zoomed in on the data, like a few months later, we found like almost everyone in our pipeline had been reading this article. And then we went a little bit deeper again, we found out that the conversion rate of those who had read the article compared to someone who hadn't, I think it was about 3 times higher. So like that impact of giving content really shined through. And I'm excited to do number 5. That's a big number. Let's see if we've got more data to share next year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome, really. Like, also, I like how you used data. Like, I think it's inevitable in today's world. If you don't use data, you won't get any smart business decisions. So I guess that was an excellent move. So we can move on to the next question now. I wanted to, before we continue, I wanted to tell everyone, like to our attendees, you can feel free to ask questions in the comment section in the live chat that you can see on the side. As we continue with our next question, we're going to have Q&A session later. we're aware that AI is dominating today's world, every aspect of it. AI generated content becomes more prevalent, as most of us know. And how can SaaS companies really maintain a connection with their audience, but through authentic first-hand experiences? What do you think?
Well, I think your personal experience is the most important factor in this. So your point of view, everyone has a point of view. I would just say start with cred, figure out which role you're going to take on. And then, but everyone has a point of view on your organization. Everyone has a point of view on the industry or market that you're in, or category, whatever. You have a point of view on your expertise, and your personal and professional life, and all that can be used. Is there a way I can share this slide so people can see it?
Yes, you can just share it for me to add to stage.
Okay.
It
should be in the stage.
This chart, right?
Yeah. So I developed this so that because there's not enough good thought leadership content out there. And basically everything I just talked about, what's your perspective on the industry or category or market that you're in? What's your perspective on your organization? You have a perspective on it, right? You have a perspective on your product. You have a perspective on your marketing. You have a perspective on, your personal life and your professional life. And I think when it starts getting interesting is when you say, well, what's the future of my industry, right? That's the visionary part. What's a story I could tell about my industry? What's some research-based, data-backed, stuff that I could share about my industry? And what are practical tips that I could share regarding my industry as a whole, right? And you could do the same thing, move down to organization. What's the future of our organization? What's the story we want to tell about our organization? What's the data that our organization produces, kind of like Kirsty's example, right? That we can share with people, right? What are practical tips, right? And then same with the product. What's the future of our product? What's the story you're trying to tell about our product? And everyone has a point of view on all these things, right? Everyone can kind of chime in and, and if you're not the expert, maybe it's your HR or maybe it's your CEO, then become the reporter, talk to that person, get that information and, fill in those details in. But that to me is what we're all shooting for. It's like, how do we bring people's experiences to bear? And how do we bring that unique point of view? And I think it's the unique point of view that really just changes the game for everyone. And as far as AI generated content, I always think of AI as augmented intelligence. It's not artificial, right? Just think of it as something that's going to help you. Like you're already great at what you do. You're already awesome. AI is just going to make you more awesome.
And it's going to make something easier for you, like a lot of things. But easier doesn't always mean better. But I agree with your point of view. Like that's also a point of view and different perspective that people have. This chart is awesome. Thank you for sharing. It really represents this thing that we're talking about here, thought leadership, and how you can definitely mix your visionary perspective, mix it with data, and then put practical advices. I think it's a great flow. Okay, so let me get back to this presentation. Anyone has something to add? No? We can continue with the next one, right?
I believe I'm back. This seems to be when I disappear. Yeah, I think there's a lot of strategies that we can deploy here. So I can list a couple high level, and then we can do a little more detail. But I think the first is quality over quantity. Second, being really clear about your purpose. Why are you talking in the first place? Like that always has to be defined. Then being more opinionated, which I think is what Paul is getting at, that perspective, bringing that in. There's a lot of word salad out there. Building a community that you can talk to, because yours is not the only experience that matters. And then finding ways to enrich your content with other kinds of media. So maybe just to break down those a little bit, quality over quantity. I nearly got that backwards. So to do that, you've got to slow down your production. You know, there's a lot of journalism out there. There's a lot of word salad, as I said. People are sick of it. That's what Leah was saying. And I think that media literacy is getting better. People are hopefully able to spot rubbish, and they don't like having their time wasted. So instead, what should we be doing? Doing thorough research, fact-checking, looking to ideally create some new knowledge, you know, instead of regurgitating the same knowledge, and being comprehensive in how we approach that, hopefully. So like, what might that look like actually practically? So we're SaaS. If we're talking about a topic, if we're talking about a tool, if we're reviewing tools, then review them, you know, actually do that work, or speak to someone who has done that work. So it's not just, you know, the headlines. Anyone can scan the headlines, and everyone else, you know, that's been done 10 times already, more than 10 times.
More.
So yeah, way more. So being clear about your purpose, like that for me is just the be all and end all. Like, why are you making this thing? Should you be making this thing? Maybe is a good question to ask sometimes as well. And why does it matter? You know, in journalism, we say, so what? Why should I care? When you create online courses, they do that as well. We talk about the WIFM, the what's in it for me. Like, if I'm retaining your attention, I have to be consistently driving that point home. And I think for me, if you're always centralizing that user and thinking like, why are they here? Why should they give me their time? Like you're going to be starting off from a good place. And yeah, like I said, something that helps someone. We know the content should be good. It should be helping people in some way, helping them be more efficient, helping them do something faster, whatever it is. Then being more opinionated.
Helping them solve a problem.
Solve whatever problem they've got. Like, why are they there? You know, so that, you know, that will hopefully align with a little bit their search intent, you know, that we should work that out at a strategy level. But then again, I've said that there's a lot of AI word salad. Some of it's good, some of it's word salad. And there's word salad that's written by humans too. But, you know, we know that AI content can be very specific, but it's less likely to have a unique perspective. So we can bring that unique opinion. You know, we're not regurgitating the same facts again. We're taking, you know, we're drawing a line in the sand, and this is the hill we're on. So again, to not be boring, because that is super boring content. We're talking to people, experts, you know, they have an informed opinion. Hopefully have something worthwhile to say. I guess, you know, your editorial team would decide that, I guess, using their editorial judgment. They'll have an insight. They're more likely to have an informed opinion. And then that kind of, I guess, relates quite closely to the last thing I said, which was building a community of people that you can talk to. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of people around your product, people who use your product, people who are in your niche. Like Paul was saying, everyone's got an opinion. There's got to be a lot of people around you. And they might be people who care about the things that you care about. So, you know, those are really valuable resources that you can tap into, but you also need to be providing them value. So it goes both ways. You know, if I want to do a really great survey on the state of whatever industry, and I really need to hear from people in my niche, I've got to motivate them somehow. So it's a bit of a value exchange going on there. So that, I think, is like an ongoing investment. And it will really help you to create things that are really, help differentiate you from a sea of word salad. And then last but not least, which is, I think, pretty self-explanatory, looking to find creative ways to incorporate other kinds of media into what you're doing. So video, imagery, things that are enriching your content further, and just really looking to create that value, support whatever your purpose is in actually making that thing.
Thank you, Caitlin. I think that this talk should be like summarized in a LinkedIn post. I can see like a carousel with sliding like the ways to maintain a connection with your audience. So that's an idea for you.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some interesting stuff also, like in like narrative theory and story-based content, in like how that works, like how that impacts the brain and how people do like to hear a story. You know, we are primed to enjoy storytelling. So there's a lot that, you know, really talented copywriters can do, and there are mechanisms that they can deploy no matter what you're writing about. You know, these are sort of technical things that we can do, and they move people to action, provably. Like there's really interesting research around that, the science of storytelling. Yeah. So there's a lot that you can do if you're willing to put the work in.
Yeah, I agree with you. We need to mind the time because we still have 2 questions and have Q&A in the end. So quick question, what would you say to brands who are discarding copywriters and replacing them with AI? Is that a good practice, good decision or not? From your perspective, of course.
I think people make a mistake and think that copywriters just write, but you're paying copywriters because of their mind. You're paying copywriters because they're strategists, right? And so what I would say, get rid of the bad copywriters and keep the good ones and equip them with AI and make them even more badass. It's that simple.
Yeah, but don't let them lose their creativity, definitely. I think that's something that also humans have and machines don't. So
yeah, that's what a good copywriter will have that, you know, in their arsenal, right? They're strategists, they're creative, they're all those things. They're empathetic, they try to connect with their audience. They have to have those basic things. But AI is just only going to make them like it's going to make them more awesome. So I think that's the point. Augmented intelligence again.
Okay, thanks.
And
Paul,
just I think I saw someone write this week on LinkedIn. They said like the writing is the last 10% of the work. Like you said, the thinking, the strategy, the framing, like they're a thinking partner. And I thought that was a really interesting way of putting it. Like I like to think of them as a thinking partner. So yeah, like you said, they're bringing a lot more than just the writing. It's how they're writing. It's why they're writing. It's all of that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I've worked with copywriters before. I am not an amazing copywriter. I've dabbled in it in the past, but I wouldn't hire me as a copywriter. But I've worked with copywriters on a watch brand before, and it was incredible to see how it was this young guy. He was starting out his watch brand, and he had this idea about who he was and what his story was. But just had no idea how to just translate that into content that resonated with people. And there were these 2 copywriters that sat with him. I was working on his SEO a little bit. And there were these 2 copywriters that sat with him and just chatted with him for ages about like what his brand represented to him, what it meant to him. And they just built these incredible landing pages for him that he just was like, so it just encapsulated everything that he was trying to say, and he didn't even know like how to say that. AI cannot do that for you. You know, you can put that into AI and go like, I am a watch brand that, you know, I'm targeting 35-year-old to 45-year-old men who like sports or whatever, but you're not going to get that authenticity. So if you're discarding copywriters for AI, then, you know, we'll see where you are.
They'll be back.
Yeah. Okay, Kirsty, do you have anything to add before we continue to the next question?
Don't have many new perspectives on that one other than don't fire your copywriter. So awful decision. What I was saying to the team, like, don't discard AI entirely. Like, it can just help you work so quickly and like streamline that creativity. I think doing AI, like using AI at the beginning to like ideate some visions. Like I often type in like, give me 30 ideas for like a campaign on this. So then one of them you'll be like, maybe this has got a little bit of mileage in it. Let's keep running. And then I use it at the other end of like the creative process where you've written something, you've drafted, for me, I always write too much. So I'll be like, make this a bit more succinct, cut it by 50%. And that saves me just like those minutes of being like, oh, what do I want to cut? Like, oh, I love everything. And like, this is a better way forward. Let's keep moving.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. This was really interesting. And we have a bonus question before we proceed with the Q&A session. Again, I'm inviting people to leave their questions in the comment section on the right side. So the bonus question for you is, how do you envision the evolution of content in this AI age over the next, for example, 5 or 10 years?
That's quite a timeline. I'll give it a shot. So obviously AI will get better, but I think it's going to introduce the concept of a digital twin. And the digital twin is going to be a replica of you and your mind and how you think and all those different things. So will it be able to produce content? Yeah, it will be able to produce content. It will be able to understand things. It will be able to almost replicate what you're able to do with very few edits versus Kirsty's example, like give me 30 ideas and they're only like 50% there, 60% there, and you got to add that extra 40%. This will be much closer to like 95%. But in the end, that digital twin will not be on some other server. It'll be yours. So you will have access to it. No one else will have access to it. And you'll be able to leverage that power and be able to. So you will not go away. Your talent will not go away because this is still like your personal team. So your POV is going to matter. Your experiences are still going to matter. And the unique flair and what you bring to things is still going to matter. None of that's going to change. And I think this is the meaning of being fully augmented. And I think this is where we're going.
So everyone is going to have their own private AI.
Yep.
Okay.
And is that in 5 or 10 years, Paul?
I think it's closer to 5, actually.
I think so too.
Yeah, the speed of how AI is progressing is insane. So I guess 5. Okay, so Caitlin, Leah, Kirsty, who would like to share?
I can't.
Well, I'm trying to wrap my head around Paul's digital twin.
I work for an AI company, so I thought about this.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to be largely speculative. I think we should maybe talk 5 to 10 months because I mean, if we look back at the last 5 to 10 months. But I would just say that there's a lot of variables at play. Like even if we think at the moment, there are various like cases working their way through the legal system in the States as relates to like AI and copyrights. We've got ongoing writers' strikes. One of the key kind of like concerns on the agenda is like the rights of script writers. So I think that's just something kind of interesting to me. I'm sure it's going to have some bearing on the larger content development space. So I'd be interested to see kind of how that all pans out. But yeah, I'm not. I don't think I would make a prediction because it's changing too much. I think I don't have a hot take. I'm happy to watch and learn and adapt. But yeah, I think there's a lot of variables. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, anyone else wants to share perspective? That's it. Okay. Okay, so this was our final question. I need to check out our comment section. I see that a lot of people are commenting, agreeing with Caitlin, agreeing with me. Would you consider programmatic SEO as part of that rubbish bucket, since it's obviously non-expert-led content? So basically, what do you think about programmatic SEO? But be really short because we have 6 minutes.
I think programmatic SEO has its place. there's some content that it's not going to be useful for. But I think it's Zapier that does it really well. They have like programmatic landing pages for all of the possible integrations that you can do, a bunch of tools. So you'll search like Google Sheets integrations, and it has just compiled, all the things that you can integrate using Zapier. You don't need an expert to weigh in on that. It's not even experience-led. You can churn those out really quickly. And I think that could work really well. You should just be careful about using it for content that should be expert or experience-led.
Of course. Zapier, it's logical that they use programmatic SEO because those pages have similar, same goal. Yep. And in this case, it's logical. Yeah. Okay, so I think this is it. We still have 5 minutes, so I'm going to use this time to thank everyone for watching. I wanted to mention that Skale recently launched its SEO content service. So feel free to visit our website to discover how we create user-centric content that is backed by experts and ranks in top positions. But most importantly, we focus on driving pipeline and MRR. So I think that's it. We're going to close now. Thank you guys for being here. I really enjoyed it. Interesting points of view, valuable insights. I see that people are reacting well to this webinar, so I'm really glad.
Can I share one last thing?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay.
We have 4 minutes. Okay, here it is. I'm adding it.
Can we hear the sound?
People.
We should. Just a second.
Yep.
Armies. Gold. Flags. Stories. There's nothing in the world more powerful than a good story. Nothing can stop it. No enemy can defeat it. And who has a better story than Bran the Broken? The boy who fell from a high tower and lived. He knew he'd never walk again, so he learned to fly. He crossed beyond the wall, a crippled boy, and became the three-eyed raven. He is our memory, the keeper of all our stories. The wars, weddings, births, massacres, famines, our triumphs, our defeats, our past.
Just had to get that.
Wow. Wow, this was really powerful ending for this webinar. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. You are really creative, which is really important, as we said. Okay, so thank you guys. I really enjoyed this. See you next time. I hope that you're going to be our speakers, maybe in some of the future webinars. And I wish you all a great day. So until next time.
Thanks guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Emma.
This is fun.
Bye.
Bye.